evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Breaking news, I'm Suzzan Newsworthy.
And I am Derek Honeycomb, and I'm here to talk to you today about
Radioactive Bees! Hot off the press, tell us what's happening.
Apparently, radioactive bees have arrived.
No.
The telegram that I have just received tells me about this post-apocalyptic tile-placing strategy game, Mutant Bees, one of the few surviving species. They must feed on enriched uranium to produce honey. Bees with higher radiation exposure are more productive and valuable to the colony. Players use game pieces of different shapes, different sizes, and arranged over several layers.
Reporter Honeycomb, I don't think that's breaking news. I think we're talking about a new game. Breaking news, everybody. There's a new game coming to Kickstarter, and it's called
Radioactive Bees.
Thanks for playing along.
Radioactive Bees is an interesting and innovative tile placing game that goes up and out.
It does. We saw this on the interwebs, and we saw three-dimensional and tile placement. And bees, we're like, yeah, we're all in. We're all in.
We thought that, yes, the concept was very interesting. The fact that you're placing tiles on layers and then building up and out from the center at the beginning is makes it a challenge.
All right, so let's talk about what you get. What's in the box is a bag to put all your pieces in.
Very nice.
Smart.
The tiles come in 4 different player colors for a game of up to 4 players. You can play solo. Your tile shapes are straight, triangle, and squiggly. And the goal is to place your tiles to keep your bees exposed throughout the rounds of the game, and at the end of each round, if you have an exposed bee, it gets a new radioactive feeding token. So to set up for gameplay, you each player chooses a color, as we've already discussed, and you get your tiles, and depending on how many players are playing the game, there's a different amount of tiles that you start the game with. And gameplay begins with as recommended by the designers, the player that was most recently stung by a bee gets to go first. And
okay, I have one issue with that, because until one of us gets stung by a bee, you always get to go first.
All right, so we roll a die to see who goes first at Nurse Garage. I'm just telling you what they recommend, because it is fun the first time.
It's smart.
And
so we're building a honeycomb.
So the goal is you're working on a honeycomb, and all of the bees are communally contributing to this honeycomb. And you place your tokens on the board, and what you want to do is have as many bees that are not covered up by other tokens on later layers at the end of a round. And you go 1 layer at a time. If you have the right sized and shaped tokens to place something on the first layer, you have to place it on the first layer. When you run out of spaces to place on the first layer, you may advance to the second, and then the third, and then the 4th layers, or as many layers as you want, until nobody can place tiles again.
And then is when you score.
But what you're trying to do while you're placing is to, 1, keep your bees exposed, cover the opponent's bees. However, the nice twist is if you cover an opponent's bees, they get points for that. They won't get a radioactive feeding token at the end of the round, but they will get points for their bee getting covered up. So you have to keep a balance, because at the end of the game, you get points. You tally all your radioactive feeding tokens at the end.
And we do have the point tracker.
The score tracker is awesome.
Oh, look, we're good. Oh, we're getting
yellow. Oh my God, we're going. It's uranium enriched.
And we've played a game that we've gone around once and
And a
twice.
half, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that was quite fun. And
All right, so where we are here
Right.
is that we've finished
4 rounds.
4 rounds, and this is what it looked like. And this was pretty darn competitive.
Yeah.
So and then you would take everything off and count the rings on the inside, the radioactive rings.
If you fill a honeycomb piece, a single honeycomb, with 4 feeding tokens, it's worth 5 points. The other ones, you just get a point per token in that honeycomb.
All right, so there's 4 rounds. Once you complete a round, you fill in the radioactive hexagons, and then you start over and you do it for 4 rounds.
Yes, you clear the board. You clear the board at the end of each round, but you do not clear the tokens, the feeding tokens. You keep those in your pieces. So are we going to start a round?
Yeah, I thought we would. All right, so let's talk about the advanced rules, which is the white.
Oh, yes, the action tokens. There are 4 action tokens, and these are each player randomly chooses one of these to replace one of their.
So they start like that, and then you pick them.
To replace one of their existing triangle tokens.
It's not additional. You have to decide if you want to not use one of these.
Yep. And for example, the red is the downloader, which allows you to take rings out of bees that you cover up with this. So from the layer below, you could take opponents' rings away. So they're going to lose points.
Heartbreak City.
Yeah, heartbreaking, especially if you've got 3, which she did that to me. It was terrible.
Nice little blue.
Blue is the freezer token. The freezer token allows you to cover bees without giving that opponent's points.
Nobody gets points.
Nobody gets points for that.
It's just covering a space.
Yep, but it keeps the other guy from getting points, which is good.
And
the thief, the black one is the thief, allows players to steal opponents' points.
So if it landed on it, you took him out, and save it towards the end. You could take 3 of those out.
No, that's not the one where you steal the tokens. It's you get their points.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You cover them and you get points. Now, the uploader, the green one, that is the one that allows you to take a ring from the covered bees. So say she's got 3 rings in a token, and she's going to get the radioactive bee at the end because of the 4th round because it's still exposed. I cover that up. I can take all 3. I can take one of those tokens, not all 3, away from her, and so she will not get that award.
So is this the queen bee? I think it is.
I call it the queen bee. Yeah. There may be a more technical term in the rule book, but it's if you make 4 rounds of getting tokens.
And that's the bonus. You get 5 for that.
That's a 5-point.
Honeycomb.
You get 5 points for tokens.
Honeycomb or an action tile.
Yeah.
All right. So we highly recommend you play without these first.
It's a good way to start without, and I think they actually recommend not using those in your first few rounds. It's a fun game. You're placing. You have to think. You have to think vertically as well as on the plane that you're on.
So we talked about that. I thought it felt like chess because. Yeah. When you play chess, you get up and you look from the other side. You see a different story. So. If you turn it, which you can very easily, though, what did you suggest for 4 players?
Oh, a little lazy Susan board to turn the board so people can see all the angles.
When it gets layered high, you can't really see what's down there.
It's difficult to see everything from where you're sitting, so you might want to be able to turn the board more easy.
This is what I know. We haven't played any game like this before. That's very unique was that building up and then being able to move it to look at from all sides.
Yeah.
And you're not only, so let's say I did that. So you're not only doing offense, your defense, because you're trying to leave your bees in a spot where they can't
get covered up.
Yeah. So I would have to do.
So she wanted to cover my red bee, and
So now if this one here.
Right.
I've now saved that one for this level.
Well, for now, and once we've filled this tier as much as we can, I could still get that. I could still cover that with one of these.
On the next round.
How you can defensively place your tokens. You can offensively place your tokens. It's a challenge. It's very interesting. It is chess-like in that way, where you're having to think multidimensionally all the different directions that pieces can go, and then vertically where they will be placed later, how to protect yourself. It's
All right,
a challenge.
So we've played quite a few games,
Yes.
and you said this last one you played it different, and you had a very high score. I was going to say you kicked their butt.
I did win the game, but it was still like a very, very close game.
But what was your
My
strategy?
My strategy mechanic that I used in that game, I specifically thought from the very get-go, I went to myself, I don't want to give any more points away during the game to my opponents than I absolutely have to. So I didn't. When I could avoid covering.
So you
when
tried
I could
to cover like yours or these?
No, when I could avoid covering their bees, I would avoid it, because if I covered their bees, they would get points. And just absent of any other strategy, I tried that, and it was down to like a 4-point game at the very end of the game. So I felt like my strategy worked, but at the same time, I also kept myself from gaining points in certain aspects by doing that strategy. I just thought that was an interesting way to see how does this mechanics work. That worked for me very well.
And you saw Dylan and I just attacking each other. As soon as I'd cover one of his, he'd cover one of mine.
It was a 3-player game.
Kind of left you alone and you ran away.
They kept covering each other up, and I just kept not covering them if I didn't have to. And it worked. It worked. I blended into the background a little bit.
So my mechanics that I did for every time I played was to get my bees on the outer rim,
right,
and to try to block it so they were always open.
Yes.
And the first few times I played, I ran away with the score. And the times that we played with more than just 2 people,
it's harder.
It didn't work. It didn't work.
It's a more difficult, because we both did some of that in our 2-player games, and then when it came to 3-player, I think we both did that a few times and saw that it was not the best. But it works in certain circumstances, so you just have to keep fluid. You can't stick to one strategy in this game.
And things that we did, because there isn't a round tracker, that we took a piece from another game, because there's 4 rounds in the game.
Yep.
And then for turn-wise, we took whatever color wasn't being used, so we knew that you started in this turn, or you started in this turn.
And that kept that even. That worked out really well. It's a very well put together game. It's very well thought out. It's
sturdy,
well rounded. It's sturdy. The pieces are high quality. Everything fits with precision.
Yeah.
I mean, as you can see, all these little tokens, they fit into each other very particularly, and not once did we have any problems with fitting them in. It worked out great.
No.
They drop right in. It's smooth. It's neat. I thought that was an interesting feature of a game.
Absolutely. As a tracker, yeah.
As a
point tracker.
In an in-game component that's very precision based. It was very neat.
And you could have in the first round a radioactive fill there.
Yeah.
And then it not get to the last round. It might just still have one.
It might just have one, but that's hidden. A point you get at the end of the game.
I saw on social media, Jose was putting the stickers in all these, and I was thinking, bless him, because if I was doing it, they'd be offside by, after like 10 games, they would, these are.
Looks like a machine did this.
So well done.
It's very nice.
And I'm wondering if engineers made this, because the way that it's set up, it is very tactical.
It is a very tactical game. That's very interesting, and the precision of it is very.
And the size of the board.
Yeah. The game board. At first, I thought it looked small, but then once you're playing the game, it's perfect.
And they have a solo variant, but we haven't played that.
We haven't really done the solo.
We don't normally do solo variants. if I had one complaint, it would be that this tracker would maybe have ridges, because if you're moving the board around, that can happen. You can lose your.
But that's just a tiny little thing.
Or have bigger bee trackers. But that's my only complaint.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
This is a well-rounded, all-around game that, again, it's going to be out on Kickstarter.
And it's one of those, not just for gamers.
Right. It's easy to learn, and it's a fun, just pick-up game. I like it.
I do too, and it's on Kickstarter. next month. And Radioactive Bees.
Radioactive Bees. Ladies and gentlemen, it's there. You've heard it here first. Radioactive Bees.
Suzzan Newsworthy signing out.
Derek Honeycomb, I'm out of here.
And we are telling you the top news, breaking news tonight.
Breaking news.
Radioactive Bees.
See you next week.
Time.